From your local election headquarters, this is Big Country Politics on KTAB.
Welcome back to Big Country Politics here on KTAB. We're talking streets, and this is the man with the plan, if you will. Real quick, I want to talk about something that I noticed when I moved to Abilene a couple of years ago, and I thought it was a bit unique of Abilene. And I've been through a lot of Texas cities. Rather than using stripes on our roads, we're using some of these little bumps on the roads. Right. Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. We actually use, I'm going to call it a traffic button. Basically, It's a reflective piece of plastic that is glued, so to speak, as far as onto the pavement. And, it has its advantages and surely I think has its disadvantages, just as striping does. You're absolutely right. This is the first community I've worked in that has predominantly on the city streets. So that's probably a good way to identify between city streets and state streets is you see those buttons, it's more than likely a city-maintained street. The advantages is, we get significant amount of precipitation, rain and alike. Those buttons are going to, show up much better than, say, striping on the street. Likewise, you're going to be able to feel those as far as on your vehicle should you start to deter out of that lane.
You can feel that and hear that.
Right. I think the premise, why did Abilene maybe go in that direction? I think it had an aspect to do with overall cost. Cost on the initial installation as well as the annual maintenance as far as for that type of system for pavement marking versus having to go in and reline as far as your streets. You put that paint down and it's got some reflectivity beads in it that the domes themselves have some reflectivity at night. And I think the decision at the time when the city chose to go forward with that was they felt it was more cost effective to be able to have those domes in place than go through either annually or biannually and restripe as far as center line lanes or the various legends that you have, be it stop bars or railroad crossings and turning arrows and the like.
Very, very interesting. I've always wondered that, so thanks for answering that. All right, so we are in January of 2019, and the voters voted for it. We're talking about the street maintenance fee. So people are going to be getting their first bills pretty much right now, and they could be seeing an additional $6 or more, maybe less.
Right.
Talk to us a little bit about that street maintenance fee and what people can expect on their utility bill, their water bill.
Sure. What they're going to see on their utility bill is they'll see a line item that'll be identified as street maintenance fee. And for the typical residential customer, that will be a $6 a month charge. For commercial or industrial or non-residential users, they're going to see that that fee is going to be a prorated as far as based on their use as far as of their business or type of business. The city has established a rate system that has been used as far as by other communities in the state of Texas as well as throughout the country to be able to fairly identify what their monthly rate should be or annually rate based on their contribution to the number of trips or travel that their business may generate on the local or city streets.
And so there are some exemptions that folks out there might qualify for, and this is obviously based on the City Council's recommendation of, how can people qualify for one of these exemptions? Sure.
We have, there was material that was initially sent out to citizens in a letter that was sent out early on as far as, or I should say late in 2018. They should have received a letter in November, December indicating the startup of the fee, but included in that was an exemption form. Those forms are also found on the city's website underneath the Department of Public Works, as well as actually right on the front page of the city's website. You can follow through as far as and obtain that information. You likewise can contact Community Services over at City Hall. They have those forms as well. It's a fairly, I like to think, simple process. There is documentation that individuals are going to need to provide. It's income-based driven. So that's really the qualifier for individuals. It's not an age aspect. It is simply as far as income driven. And should they qualify, Community Services then will provide a recommendation for us to adjust as far as their fee on a monthly basis. And it's a rather substantial reduction.
Very good. So with those exemptions, you know, we don't know exactly how much money is going to end up being collected from the street maintenance fee, right? We have some estimates.
We have some estimates, right. There will be some adjustments as this, the revenue starts to come in as far as on a monthly basis. But right now, the projections that we're using is that this street maintenance fee should generate approximately $5 to $5.5 million annually, and that's the amount that we're using that would be the revenue stream that would be generated. So again, the money is starting to come in right now as we speak, and it will continue as far as to come in on an annual basis on a month-per-month basis. So.
But this is a bit different than bond money because we've got to have the money in the bank in order to spend it, right?
Correct.
And these street projects are not cheap.
No, they're not. No, they're not. We're looking at a number of treatment methods. These are maintenance dollars, so we're not necessarily looking at full reconstruction on some streets, although we've already had several discussions internally through the street services engineering as well as operations within Public Works to try to identify how best are we going to be able to address as far as all these street needs. The needs are tremendous, there's no question. You look at the street index study that was done, I mean, they identified in excess of $350 million in need, you know, and so that's for all reconstruction, and we could put everything back to, I call it a perfect world. Well, you know, we're not going to get there, but surely what we want to do is make these dollars, put them to the best use possible. And so that's why we're using a couple of tools to help assist us in identifying what streets we should look to improve and what methods we should be applying on those streets in order to really optimize the monies we have.
Could you maybe give me some examples of maybe a street or something that you think will benefit greatly from the street maintenance fee? I mean, I know it's early on in the game, but is there an example of, you know, like what, I mean, is this going to be just like, you know, patching holes along, you know, I don't know what street? Is there any examples?
Well, I'm going to give you a few examples of some things that we're looking at. You know, let's maybe go to the far end of the spectrum. You look at a street such as, say, Sales, all right? Heavily traveled street, you know, it fronts Cooper High School. We all know that street is just in really disrepair. You know, that's a street that's going to need to qualify probably for a complete reconstruction. You know, there's probably a $3 million cost associated to that street. Is that something that we're going to be able to do as far as early on in the program? We're looking at that, okay, to see, you know, some of the qualifiers we're using is we're using an asset management system to help identify what treatment methods we should do where. How will that change the overall pavement condition index of the streets? Each street's got a number assigned to it, you know, a condition of that road. You know, another area is you look at several of the residential streets. You know, our residential streets by far are in worse condition than, say, the arterials and collectors. That's not because you've done all this work on the bond projects, it's just the attention has not been given there in the past, and that's primarily, I think, because you don't have the traffic volumes, you know, on those streets. So an example of a residential street would be that you may have a roadway that necessarily you don't have a lot of base failure, but it really just needs a minimal overlay as far as on that roadway, or something even more minor, say a rock-covered chip seal as far as overlay on that road to be able to extend the life expectancy of that road, say 5 to 10 more years on that road before it truly is needed for a further improvement.
Tell me real quick, kind of just about, there's a committee of sorts that kind of helps with some of these decisions, right? And it's a committee made of citizens. Correct.
So the City Council has chosen to establish a citizen, it's basically a street advisory and appeals board. And that board is charged with certain items or directives. And one of the primary directives is to work with city staff, the Director of Public Works primarily, to be able to identify those roadway segments that they feel should be undertaken for improvements or treatments. They're also charged with hearing appeals that regarding a use classification of a particular business as their rate is established, as well as providing the City Council a annual report of the street improvements that have been undertaken. So that's really their charge. They're very beneficial, though, to us as staff, because they're sort of the voice, per se, of really the layperson within the community. They're made up of various backgrounds, so that really gives us a very diverse group to be able to help provide us input. I mean, a lot of times us as engineers, we get our engineer's hat on, and we don't really take into account the opinions of others as far as that can help guide better decisions. So excited to be able to use them as a resource and tool to make this program a success.
Very good. So right now, we're obviously undergoing several projects this year. We've got the street maintenance fee. Is Abilene in a good position to fix this problem?
Well, I think we're taking a step in the right direction. There's no question we could always use more dollars, as any program could. I'm excited to the aspect, at least, that the city has identified the need. I think it's up to us to make this program a huge success. I think we've got some very good people at the helm, be it in the engineering services group or be it in the street maintenance group. They're likewise are a huge part of this aspect. We're also rolling in stormwater services. They handle the city's street sweeping program. And so we've got some things and ideas that as we try to improve this street system, and it is a true system of the communities, there's a lot of things that we're looking at, not just bricks and mortar, on trying to enhance and improve this system.
Very good. All right. Thank you, Greg, so much for joining us here. We'll have to have you on another time. It seems like, Abilene, like you said, we're going in the right direction. Streets will be hopefully a lot smoother to come.
We hope so.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Big Country Politics returns right after this.